Right, folks. So, uh, y- you know how we all have those dreams, right? Like the super weird ones that just kind of come out of nowhere. I had one last night that was just, I don't even know where to begin.
Oh, do tell. Those are always the best kind. The ones that leave you scratching your head in the morning.
Well, okay, so get this. I'm walking up to my house, right? And it's completely covered in vines, like totally swallowed up. Walls, roof, the whole thing. It was like something out of Jumanji or something.
Whoa, that's a pretty intense image.
Yeah, and it gets weirder. So like, okay, I got to see what's going on inside, right? I open the door and it's vines everywhere inside too. Like instead of curtains hanging from the ceiling. And then I walk into the kitchen.
Oh, okay. The suspense is killing me. Who's in the kitchen?
Early Arnold Schwarzenegger, shirtless, just standing there all chill, eating pasum kanji out of my favorite bowl. He looks up at me, gives me this little nod, and goes right back to his porridge.
No way. That's amazing. Only in a dream. Right.
I know, right? It was so bizarre, but it felt so real while it was happening. And that's what got me thinking, and probably you two listening out there, what is the deal with dreams? Why are they so strange? And where do they even come from?
It's a great question, and you're absolutely right. It's something that's fascinated people for, well, probably as long as we've been dreaming.
Exactly. And it seems like everyone has a different opinion. Some folks swear they don't dream at all, while others have super vivid dreams every night. But what does the science actually say about all this? That's what we're going to be diving into today, trying to sort through some of the research on this fascinating topic.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. And you know that thing about some people not dreaming? It turns out that's actually a myth. Research has shown that everyone dreams. It's just that some of us are better at remembering them than others.
Really? So even those people who say they never dream are actually having dreams every night?
Pretty much. And, it makes sense when you think about it. We all sleep, and dreaming is just part of that natural sleep cycle. It's just that sometimes those dreams fade away before we have a chance to remember them.
So it's like our brains are putting on these elaborate shows every night, but we don't always get to see the whole performance.
Exactly. And there are a few reasons for that. One of the big ones is the stage of sleep we're in when we wake up.
Oh, right. There are all those different sleep stages, aren't there? I remember learning about them in school, but it's been a while.
Definitely. So we cycle through different stages of sleep throughout the night, and the kind of dream we have and whether we remember it depends on which stage we're in when we wake up.
Okay, so let's break down those sleep stages a bit. Remind me what they are again.
Sure. So there are basically four main stages of sleep. The first one is called N1, which stands for non-rapid eye movement sleep stage 1.
NREM, stage 1. And what happens during this stage? Is this when we start dreaming?
Not quite. N1 is that very light sleep you experience when you're first drifting off. You know that feeling when you're kind of aware of your surroundings, but your eyelids are getting heavy?
Oh, yeah, like when you're watching TV late at night and you start nodding off.
Exactly. You might have some fleeting thoughts or images, but they're not really full-blown dreams yet, and you can easily be woken up during this stage.
Okay, so what happens next? We move into a deeper stage of sleep.
Right. The next stage is N2, which is also non-rapid eye movement sleep, but it's a bit deeper than N1. Your heart rate slows down, your body temperature drops, and you become less aware of your surroundings. It's harder to wake someone up during this stage.
And are we dreaming yet during N2?
Some people might experience very brief, fragmented dreams during N2, but it's not the prime dreaming stage. This stage is more about your brain consolidating memories from the day, kind of like filing things away for later.
Wow, so even when we're sleeping, our brains are hard at work.
Definitely. And then we go even deeper into sleep with stage N3.
This is the really deep sleep, right? Like when it's almost impossible to wake someone up.
Exactly. N3 is also called slow wave sleep because the brain waves become much slower and more synchronized. This is when your body is really getting that restorative rest. Your heart rate and breathing are at their slowest and your muscles are completely relaxed.
And what about dreams during this stage? Are they super intense since we're in such deep sleep?
Actually, it's kind of the opposite. While we can dream during N3, the dreams tend to be less vivid and less memorable than the ones we have during REM sleep. This is because during N3, the parts of our brain that are responsible for processing emotions and creating those vivid sensory experiences in dreams are less active.
Interesting. So it's not necessarily about how deep the sleep is, but more about which parts of the brain are active.
Exactly. And this is where REM sleep comes in, which is the fourth and final stage of sleep. And this is the one that everyone always talks about when it comes to dreams.
Right. REM sleep, that's the rapid eye movement sleep, right? Where your eyes are darting around under your eyelids.
Precisely. And it's called paradoxical sleep because even though you're deeply asleep, your brain is incredibly active, almost as if you're awake.
So our brains are basically throwing a party while our bodies are taking a nap.
Pretty much. Your heart rate and breathing speed up, your brain waves become more active, and this is when we have those really vivid and memorable dreams.
Like my Arnold Schwarzenegger dream. So why does this happen during REM sleep? Why are our brains so active when our bodies are essentially paralyzed?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And there are a lot of different theories out there, but no one knows for sure why we dream.
Okay, so let's dive into some of those theories. What are some of the leading ideas about why our brains put on these elaborate nighttime shows?
One popular theory is that dreams help us consolidate memories. So throughout the day, we're constantly taking in new information and forming new memories. And during REM sleep, our brain is thought to be replaying those experiences and strengthening the connections between neurons.
So it's like our brains are reviewing the day's footage and deciding what to keep and what to delete.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And the crazy, illogical stuff we often see in our dreams might just be a side effect of that process. Our brain is trying to make sense of all this information, and sometimes it comes up with some pretty weird combinations.
Makes sense. What are some of the other theories?
Another idea is that dreams help us process emotions. So during the day, we might not always have the time or the space to fully process difficult emotions, but in our dreams, we can let those feelings out in a safe environment.
So it's like our brain's way of working through emotional baggage without having to deal with the consequences in the real world.
Exactly. And this could explain why dreams can sometimes be so intense or even scary. They're allowing us to confront those feelings that we might be pushing down during the day.
Interesting. Any other theories we should know about?
There's also the threat simulation theory, which suggests that dreams might help us rehearse for dangerous situations.
Oh, wow. So like a mental training ground for real-life threats.
Right. So maybe in your dreams, you're running away from a bear or fighting off an attacker. And while those situations are obviously not happening in real life, the theory is that these dreams are helping you prepare for similar situations if they were to ever occur.
That's a fascinating idea. It makes you wonder if our ancestors, who were facing more real-life dangers, had even more intense and vivid dreams.
Absolutely. And then there's the theory that dreams are linked to creativity and problem solving. There are countless stories of people having breakthroughs in their work or coming up with new ideas after waking up from a dream.
Oh, yeah. Like that famous story about the chemist who discovered the structure of benzene after dreaming of a snake biting its own tail.
Exactly. And while we don't fully understand how it works, there's some evidence to suggest that the free-flowing, illogical nature of dreams can actually help us make new connections and see things from a different perspective.
That's really cool. So it's like our brain is doing some out-of-the-box thinking while we sleep.
Right. And it's not always about finding concrete solutions to specific problems. Sometimes it's just about exploring different possibilities and letting our minds wander.
I like that. It makes dreams seem a lot less scary and a lot more like a nightly playground for our imagination.
Definitely. And there's another theory we should talk about too, the activation synthesis theory.
Okay, I don't think we've touched on that one yet. What's that all about?
So this theory suggests that dreams are basically just our brain trying to make sense of random neural activity. During REM sleep, different parts of our brain are firing off signals, and the activation synthesis theory says that our dreams are essentially stories that our brain creates to try and make sense of all that activity.
So it's like our brain is taking all these random electrical impulses and weaving them into a narrative.
Precisely. And because those impulses are random, the stories often end up being pretty bizarre and illogical.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. It's like our brain is a storyteller who's been given a bunch of random words and is trying to string them together into a coherent sentence.
Yeah. And of course, all of these theories could be playing a role to some extent. It's likely that dreams are serving multiple purposes, and we're still just beginning to scratch the surface of understanding this complex phenomenon.
Right. And there's always the question of whether dreams have deeper meaning, right? Like, are they trying to tell us something about ourselves or our lives?
Yes. That's the big one, isn't it? The age-old question of dream interpretation.
Exactly. Some people believe that dreams are full of symbolism and hidden messages that can reveal things about our subconscious mind.
Right, and that's an idea that's been around for centuries. Think about all those ancient cultures who interpreted dreams as messages from the gods or prophecies about the future.
Definitely. And even today, a lot of people still believe that dreams can offer insights into our deepest fears and desires.
Of course. And there's definitely something to be said for exploring your dreams and thinking about what they might mean to you personally. But it's important to remember that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to dream interpretation. What a certain symbol means to you might be different from what it means to someone else.
So there's no universal dream dictionary that we can use to decode our dreams.
Sadly, no. And from a scientific perspective, there's not a lot of evidence to support the idea that dreams are full of hidden messages that need to be deciphered.
Okay, so what about those people who say they have prophetic dreams? Dreams that actually come true.
It's really interesting, right? Those stories can be pretty compelling, but there's a more likely explanation for that phenomenon. And it has to do with the way our brains process information.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So our brains are constantly picking up on subtle cues in our environment, even if we're not consciously aware of them. And sometimes those cues can make their way into our dreams. So let's say you have a dream about a friend getting sick, and then a few days later, that friend actually does get sick.
Oh, I've totally had dreams like that. It's so freaky when it happens.
Right. But the thing is, your brain might have already picked up on some subtle signs that your friend wasn't feeling well, even if you didn't consciously notice them. Maybe they were a little bit more tired than usual, or their voice sounded a bit off, and your dream was just reflecting those subconscious observations.
So it's not that the dream was predicting the future, but rather that our brains are really good at picking up on patterns and making connections, even when we're asleep.
Exactly. And sometimes those connections can seem pretty uncanny, especially when they involve something as emotionally charged as a friend getting sick.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like our brain is constantly working in the background, trying to make sense of the world, even when we're not consciously aware of it.
Exactly. And that's part of what makes dreams so fascinating. They offer a glimpse into the inner workings of our minds, even if we don't always understand what we're seeing. So, as much as we'd love to have a foolproof method for interpreting our dreams, it seems like the most important thing is to just pay attention to them and see what resonates with us personally. Maybe our Arnold Schwarzenegger dreams are just our brains having fun. Or maybe they're trying to tell us something about our own inner strength or our love of rice porridge.
Exactly. The beauty of dreams is that they're open to interpretation. And even if there's no one right answer, the process of exploring them and thinking about what they might mean to us can be a really enriching experience.
Totally. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. From the science of sleep cycles to the different theories about why we dream to the challenges of dream interpretation, it's clear that there's still so much we don't know about this mysterious world that our brains create every night.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so exciting to study. There's always more to learn and new discoveries to be made.
So to our listeners out there, the next time you wake up from a particularly strange or vivid dream, try not to get too caught up in trying to figure out what it means. Instead, just embrace the weirdness and appreciate the fact that your brain is capable of creating such incredible experiences.
And who knows, maybe that dream will spark a new idea or help you see the world in a different light.
Sweet dreams, everyone.
Sleep well.